All right, here with new Cincinnati head football coach Luke Fickell. And Coach, first, welcome to Cincinnati.
Thank you.
I'm gonna get the important question out of the way first. Have you picked a side yet?
No, I haven't. I'm leaving that to my wife. But I've had a couple good guys that I've been around that have pulled me from east to west and are battling over and trying to see.
So there's a turf war in place.
For the last couple of weeks, some of the guys I know pretty well have been saying, kind of battling back and forth. They don't know if I'm tough enough to go to one side. They think it's a little soft on the other side. So a lot of opinions out there.
Great. Sunday, you had a chance to finally get the team together. I know this has been a whirlwind process from the day you were hired until that day. What was that morning like, getting to meet with those guys, having them all together, and finally being the head coach of the football team?
It's what you've been waiting for, and I think there was kind of that anxiety. I told them the first thing I said, I hope you guys have some butterflies. I hope you have some anxiety, because I do. And it's like Christmas. It's like unwrapping a present. It's, you're trying to find out what it is that you got. And I was pleasantly surprised. Not that I was worried, but their attention to detail, their attentiveness, their willingness to accept new direction, new leadership, a new era. I'm really excited about it.
And that's the read you've gotten from them. There hasn't been pushback. It's guys that want to get this thing back on track and get back to winning the way that this program's won over the last decade plus.
I think there's some guys that are starving for some ownership, for some new leadership, some different. I think for some relationships, and I think that's what you've in a couple of days what we found. Or some guys. Do we have a ways to go? Yes, we do. There's a reason for that. Have they been off for a whole entire month? Yeah, because they didn't have the option to play in a bowl game. So, like a lot of programs, that would put you a little bit behind in those times. But the reality is, they've had an unbelievable attitude. They've been acceptance to everything, and we've pushed them, and we're going to continue to push them. But I love the attitude that they've had.
You talked when you got hired about having a plan, and this is something that you've worked on mapping out for quite some time. How much of that goes out the window when when it starts getting real, and how much do you remind yourself we've got to stick to this and we've got to keep our attention and our eyes on these certain things?
Well, you need help, and I think that's what having a great staff helps you do too. You kind of lay the plan out. Everybody's got a plan. Like I think it was Holyfield or Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they're hit. And so we've got some adverse situations and some different things, and you always got to be able to adapt. But if you don't have a plan, then you're right. You're spinning your tires. You're going in all different directions. So we're trying to keep it tight. The number one thing for me is to not do too much. We're not trying to put too many things on the walls, not trying to create some new culture right off the bat and give them 35 different things that we want them to do. We're going to work this thing from the inside out. We tell them build relationships, build toughness, and then continue to work from there.
You talk about building a staff. Early returns so far, I know all of them haven't been announced. I don't know specifically who we can talk about, but in general, in terms of the overall makeup of guys with Power 5 experience and some younger guys, some guys that have some veteran experience and been around the game a long time. How pleased are you with how this staff has come together so far?
It's been amazing to see how many guys have, what we say, take that leap of faith, have come here not exactly knowing everything, whether it's truly having a contract to sign, truly having a salary, even a position for some. And the reality is that they've all been diving head first, saying, hey, we believe in the leadership and the way you're going and the route to which you're going to go, and the experiences that they've had from whether they've been with me or with some other people that they trust. So it's been unbelievable. The thing about it is really now is you assemble all these great guys. They're all great people, great family guys that have different experiences, been around different people, but the reality is how do we all come together as one? And that's a process too. Just like this team building is a process, our ability to adapt, to grow our team, to build the relationships with this team. It's the same thing for us as coaches. We got to build this staff. We're going to have a lot of great people, but now we got to be able to find a way that we can all come together, work together, and enhance one another.
You talked about having a list of guys at each position or each slot that you were kind of looking at, a list of 4 or 5 guys. How much did you have to stray from that list, and how much were you able to decide between those options that you had?
We didn't have to stray too much, to be honest. I mean, that's the kind of the crazy thing. Now, again, we got to give a lot of credit to Cincinnati and the history that they've had here. That people aren't just leaving some incredible places for something without a history themselves. So, from what they've done here, from all the way back to Rick Menard to Mark D'Antonio, to Butch Jones to Brian Kelly, or Brian Kelly to Butch Jones, what they have built here and the things that they've done here. has given us that opportunity. And we're going to build upon that. So a lot of these guys have had a history, whether they coached here or knew about it. So that gives us an opportunity to be very successful and get the guys that we need to get.
Recruiting about to kick off. I mean, obviously you can't talk about names or anything along those lines, but philosophy-wise, you're trying to finish out a class. You don't really know what you got on the roster because you haven't had a chance to fully work with those guys yet. Is it looking just for guys that have the right character traits and the talent that you're looking for? How do you go through this process to signing day that, can be difficult because you're not fully entrenched with, years of experience coaching the team?
We got to find the guys that best fit the program and the mentality of what we want. Now, we're also going to focus on those guys that are closest. And that's just the reality, because those are the guys we're going to know the most about. We got a 3-week process to find out as much as we can about each guy. It's easy to pop on a film and say, okay, look how fast he is, or look how big he is, or this is his size, this is his speed. But how do you really know a lot about them unless you can have an opportunity to get with them, meet with them, know their parents? So yeah, our philosophy is, hey, this what we're going to call the state of Cincinnati, the outskirts of this area, that we've got to do an unbelievable job. We know the most about these guys. We know what kind of high school football they play. The entire state of Ohio, we got to do an unbelievable job right there, as opposed to going every place else because of the time we have. Not that we're not going to focus on that in the future of everything we do, but even right now in this last 3-week push, we got to go with the guys we know the most about.
Coach Phillips and Coach Freeman were able to kind of get on the job while you were finishing up with Ohio State and then hit the ground running when you came here. How invaluable have those two been to kind of spark this thing from the ground floor and get everything kind of running as everybody else comes in and they're able to fill them in and catch everybody up to speed?
One of those really tough lessons I learned in the 8 months I was the head coach at Ohio State is truly believing and trusting in some people around you to do some of those things that you don't have the opportunity to do, or you don't have the time to do, or you don't have the energy to do. And that's what those guys did for us. They came here. Were they recruiting? Were they trying to map out some things? Yeah, but what they really were doing, they were building relationships within our department, within the athletic department, as much as they could do, meeting people around here, getting things in order. And that gave us an opportunity to be successful when we walked in the door, because we could get straight onto recruiting. We didn't have to do some of those other things academically, building some things right here to get people to help us. So to have those guys here for a 2-week period, kind of that blind faith that, hey, they're going to walk in here, they're going to do a lot of the grunt work. I don't know where we'd be right now without that start.
How hard was it that week and a half, that you were still up there, conducting interviews up there, in your spare time, compartmentalizing as much as you could, still giving your time to Ohio State? Was it harder than you thought? Was it a bigger challenge than you thought?
As you look back at it, yeah. And again, to the biggest thing is about trying to stay focused. You want to do your best job at everything that you do, and that's kind of going to be the philosophy of the things we do. If it's something that we don't want to put a lot of effort in, then we don't want to do it. There's nothing that we want to do that average way, and that was the hard thing. That I got to do my best job at finishing this thing out. The respect I have for not just my alma mater, but the kids I coach, the people, the guys who are around us. You want to do the very best, and then you also want to get started on and doing the very best here. So the people that suffered the most probably were my family, because those are the ones that are closest. Those are the ones that you didn't have an opportunity to see in those 2 weeks. But they also understand too. Last
question. The interesting thing for me on that first meeting, one of your messages to the team was blind faith. Take us through that. What's that mean in the message that you're sending to them and trusting you guys and getting this thing rebuilt?
They don't know us. We didn't recruit them. And they were recruited by a different staff. They were recruited by different guys. And the reality is, when somebody new comes in, there's a lot of an evaluation period. And the thing we don't want them to do is evaluate, because, we're going to come in being tough, being hard, trying to set the tone and the culture that we want. And if there's a lot of evaluation going on, it's really tough to engage everybody. It's tough to build that trust in one another. So I try to give them the example of the coaches the same way. We want to recruit the coaches the same way we're going to recruit these guys. They had to have some blind faith in believing in leadership, believing in the university, believing in the things that we can do without actually seeing it. So, if a 50-year-old man with a family can have that kind of belief and faith that 18 to 22-year-olds, we're going to ask you to have those same kind of things, because it's going to be hard and you're going to question some things. But if you can't really look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, we got to give this an opportunity for us to be successful, it's going to be very difficult, and it'll take longer to build. We'll build it, but it'll take a lot longer to build the culture and get the things the way you want to go. When guys are trying to evaluate too much and they don't truly deep down inside believe in what it is that you're doing, and you as a person. And that's the hardest thing, to push guys. In my mind, the reason I've thought I've always had success and the guys I've coached is because you get to know them so well. You build such a relationship that you understand how they're motivated and how you can push them and what buttons to push. We don't have that kind of time. And if we have to try to do that with every single guy, it's going to take a long time. And it's not fair to the seniors, for they got one shot for 1 year of football that's guaranteed to them left, and we got to do the best for them.
Coach, thanks a lot. Good luck on the recruiting trail.
Thank you.
Thank you.